My name is Kyle. My project is on measuring the impact of bicycle facilities on neighborhood business districts. So before I get going, I have to just give you a quick outline of what I'm going to go through. First, a glossary of some terms I'll be using, explain my personal interest in the topic, and then explain why this type of analysis is important. Go into the literature review, finally the case studies that I went into, and lastly, how this project can be better for Seattle in the future. So first, bicycle facility. Anything in the city that is allocated space for bicycles. It could be on a road, it could be a trail like we have here in the Burke Gilman. This here is a bike lane on Ravenna Boulevard. Sharrows are even bike facilities, or shared lane markings you might call them. Simple just spaces on the street that allocate cars and bikes are sharing this space. And even intersection designs. This here is a bike box where bicyclists are given the front space at an intersection when they're waiting for a signal. All of these I consider bike facilities. Neighborhood business district. These are areas of the city where businesses are together on a street or on a couple of streets with a business mix of different things like restaurants, coffee shops, banks. All of these happen in business districts in Seattle. So the Ave, which we're on now, Rainier Ave in Columbia City is one, Green Lake Drive, there's a whole bunch of them in Seattle, they're all over. So now why am I interested in this project? Well, for the last year I've been working 2 jobs in addition to being in school. I'm pretty glad that's almost over. First I've been working for BDS Planning and Design, doing GIS, and then I also intern at SDOT, Seattle Department of Transportation. At BDS Planning and Design, my clients are mainly neighborhood business districts. We get hired to work in neighborhoods and create BIAs, Chamber of Commerce work. And at SDOT, I mean, really work for anyone that uses a street in Seattle, but I work on the bike master plan, so mainly bicyclists are my clients there. So why is this project important? What does this really help us understand in Seattle? Well, first we got to understand the environment of bicycling in Seattle. It's currently growing. So Commute Seattle produces a report every 2 years explaining how mode split happens for people accessing downtown. Bikes are growing second fastest just to rail in our city, so it's obvious that bikers are growing as a mode choice, so we need to build facilities for them. If we're going to build facilities for them, well, where should they go? They have to go somewhere. Bikes on retail streets are good for bicyclists because retail street is often an end destination for cyclists. When you get on your bike, you often want to go to the coffee shop or to the bank, to the grocery store. All these happen in commercial districts. But are they good for the businesses? That's something that we don't understand yet, is how these bike facilities impact the businesses. So I want to bring you to a small little story of what happened recently during Seattle, the Bike Master Plan update, the public comment review period for the draft network. So Seattle released the network of where all the facilities are going to go in the city in the future, and gave it to the public and said, hey, what do you guys think about this? Well, on 65th Street in Roosevelt, the businesses came together and had some very strong opinions about what they thought about these facilities planned for their street. One of the businesses came in and said, eliminating street parking for cars would be detrimental for small businesses. The commercial tenants are disturbed by this proposal. Another comment came in and says, I cannot see this working out to have the road congested any further from installing a bike lane. Believe it or not, this person actually came in and said, what have you been smoking? This proposal would make it only worse for drivers, but it would seriously and negatively impact businesses along 65th. The opinion that the businesses have on this street is obvious, and being the person who processed all the public comment, there was a lot more from this business district. I just highlighted these 3. So back to the Bike Master Plan. We're currently working on it at SDOT. It should be released in June. What is it really planned for the city? Well, here is the entire network that it has planned. As you can see, a lot of facilities. A total of 582 miles of facilities are planned. Of those, 450 are not built. That means they're either not in the street now or they require an upgrade of some sort. And of those, 161 are on retail streets. So we have a huge investment coming from public funds for bicycle facilities that will impact businesses in some form. To review, we have impacted businesses not known, reason why it's important, opposition from retail, it's a political miscommunication in the city, and the Bike Master Plan, big investment on its way. So I went to my literature review thinking simply, how have other people done this? What is the methods to analyze this type of question? Two methods emerged, one intercept surveys, another is taxable retail sales data. So intercept surveys, how do they work? You enter a business district, you're going to get coffee and someone stops you on the street and says, how did you get here? How often do you visit this neighborhood business district? And how much do you spend per visit? 99% of studies have used this method and have put together numbers like this. So this is from the East Village in New York City, and they, through their surveys, were able to understand that, well, walkers spend this much, subway riders, bikes, so on and so forth. This is one method to measure economic impact from bicycle facilities. A very new method that is pioneered by a study in New York City that actually hasn't been released yet, but I was able to get some information on it, is using taxable retail sales data. So the way this works is that every fiscal quarter, every business reports their incomes to the Department of Revenue. And using GIS, we can kind of draw a boundary around a business district and aggregate the data for analysis. So in New York City, they're really pioneering a new method. It hasn't even been tested yet because the study isn't released. So all of this is based off a webinar that I tuned into. How their methods work is that they take the improvement site and they aggregate the economic flow, compare it to a real retail street in the neighborhood, and also the entire neighborhood that encompasses both the improvement site and the neighborhood comparison. In addition, they look at 1 year before the project and 3 years after the project to get a baseline understanding, and then after the project was built. We're in this middle column here, is that when it was built, and then afterwards, see what happens. So in Washington, taxable retail sales data is protected by the state. You can't simply go online and download all the data and make all the graphs you want. The Department of Revenue protects it from public access. However, I emailed the Department of Revenue and told them my project, explained what I was trying to do, and I was actually able to get data for 2 case studies, and I was thinking, like, is this illegal? Like, how do I have access to this data? So I actually went and read the Revised Code of Washington pretty thoroughly and found that it is legal to publish the data as long as we don't know how each business performed individually. As long as the data is diffused to a geographic area of a certain size, it is okay for us to understand this data, which is good for future implementation of the study. Okay, so now to the case studies. I looked at Greenwood Ave North, received a bike facility in 2010, and the intersection of 65th and Latona, which received this facility in 2011. First, Greenwood. Here we are at Gould Hall, just across Green Lake, not very far away. The business district is mainly at Greenwood and 85th. It extends north and south a little bit. So the project, it finished in Q4 2010. This is the neighborhood business district as defined by myself. And here we have the bike lane that was installed. Now exactly what happened here was a simple road diet. A road diet is when you take 4 lanes, turn into 2. You put a center turn lane in the middle, and then this road diet got 2 bike facilities on each side. So to look at the impact that the businesses might be thinking about for people accessing their district is, well, 1 travel lane in each direction was removed, 3 parking spots were removed, not a huge impact, but then bike lanes were installed in each direction. So on to the data. I had 3 data sets collected, just like the New York City study, 1 for all of Northwest Seattle, the improvement site, and then the comparison site was 15th and 85th, kind of extended on the Holman a little bit, if you're familiar with the area. So the data results. Here we have the neighborhood-wide data. The bike lane in the middle signifies when the project happened, so baseline and then afterwards. The comparison site performed pretty similar to the neighborhood-wide. Better at times, worse at others, but in general, similar flow. And then lastly, the data for Greenwood. The flow, just like the neighborhood comparison, was very similar, nothing shocking in terms of how the district performed economically. So what can we conclude from this? Based on the data, the loss of automobile travel lanes and parking spaces did not have a negative impact on the business district. So let's look at the next case study. Northeast 65th Street and Latona Ave Northeast. Not very far from here at all, just across I-5 and up towards Green Lake a little bit. Very small pocket neighborhood district, just really at the intersection of those 2 streets. This is right from SDOT when they